This is Jennifer Gonzalez, welcoming you to episode 269 of the Cult of Pedagogy podcast. In this episode, we'll talk about how to bring the power of debate to math class. When we think of math class, many people think of an atmosphere that values black and white, clear-cut, right and wrong answers. A place where speed, precision, and accuracy matter most. We don't often think of it as a hotbed of lively discussion where ideas are exchanged and gray areas are explored. It's not a place where students expect to think deeply. Most of the time, they just want to get to the answer and move on. My guest today figured out a way to change that, and the solution came from an unlikely place. Chris Luzniak has been teaching math for over a decade, and early in his career, he noticed a frustrating disconnect. The same students who sat silent in his math class were coming alive at speech and debate practice, digging into complex ideas, challenging each other's thinking, and making real arguments. So he started asking himself how he could bring that energy into math. What he developed is a way to weave debate into math instruction, not as an occasional special event, but as a regular part of how students engage with content. By reframing math questions to invite opinions and require reasoning, and by giving students a simple but powerful sentence frame to structure their arguments, he's built a classroom culture where thinking matters more than just the answer. He's written a guest post on Cult of Pedagogy laying out exactly how this works, and in this episode, we'll walk through it together. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Erickson Institute for sponsoring this episode. If you're listening to this while mentally counting down the minutes to the end of the day, you're not alone. Too many educators who love teaching are burning out fast. Erickson Institute's Social Emotional Learning Certificate can help you reconnect with why you started teaching, while offering you real strategies to provide the support your students need. This completely online program is designed for educators who are overwhelmed, emotionally drained, yet still deeply committed to their students. Get support and solutions that can impact you and your students. To learn more and apply for full tuition scholarships, visit cultofpedagogy.com/SEL certificate. Support also comes from ListenWise, providing short, high-quality, age-appropriate podcasts for grades 2 through 12. Save time with pre-made lessons and build students' background knowledge and academic vocabulary. Keep students on grade level with scaffolding and differentiation. ListenWise now offers the Writing Assessor, a new tool that provides instant, actionable feedback to help students become more confident and capable communicators. The Writing Assessor generates English language proficiency levels and identifies strengths and growth areas, saving teachers time and giving every student the valuable feedback they need to improve. Start a free trial today at listenwise.com. Now, here's my conversation with Chris Luzniak about debate in math class. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here. A long-time listener, first-time caller.
This is going to be a really cool topic. This is just something that's completely fresh and different, and I don't do math-related stuff that often.
Great.
So we're going to be talking about bringing debate to math class. So tell us a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your educational background.
Well, I'm Chris Luzniak, a longtime secondary math educator. I taught high school and a little bit of middle school over the past 20 plus years. I started in New York City public schools, taught in Los Angeles in an all-girls school, and most recently in Columbus, Ohio, where I currently am. I've also been a math coach, instructional coach, like roles like that. And I work now full-time as a consultant for schools all over US and Canada, working with math teachers to make class engaging, exciting, and get those kids thinking.
And you have now a site called Debate Math.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep. And a book and all that stuff.
Yes. And so we're going to focus on your main area of expertise today, which is bringing debate to the math class. And you've written a great post for Cult of Pedagogy that people are going to be able to have a step-by-step from you. If you could take us back to when did you decide that debate was something that needed to happen in a math class?
Well, when I was teaching in New York City, I was kind of your traditional math teacher 20 plus years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Kids in rows. I worked out problems and said, okay, now you do 10 more of this.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they weren't engaged. Of course, if I asked questions, I didn't get a lot of discourse happening in the class. And then outside of class, I was also the speech and debate coach for my school. I'm a big
Mm.
speech and debate fan. I was in it in high school, and I started the team at my New York school. And I saw the kids after school just so engaged. They wanted to read even like boring articles about like healthcare policy, right, or international politics or
Mm.
things, because they wanted to have a way to make a convincing argument. So there was like this high level of engagement. And I just started wondering, like, how do I get this engagement, excitement, the discourse, all the things that are happening in my speech and debate after school club into the math classroom somehow? And
Yeah.
I started playing with different ideas to help make that work.
Okay. And so, with some years, I guess, of trial and error, you've sort of now gotten it down to a way of doing this, an approach that is really working well for you.
Yeah, at least a way to like get started for teachers of some basic framework and some basic questions you can ask to really get the debate flowing in the classroom, so students feel comfortable and learn how to make arguments.
Yes. So how would a person get started with this? What would be the way to get started?
A few things. I think the two main pillars I talk about are we have to have debatable questions,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to have some kind of talking routine to get into the argumentation part and
Mm-hmm.
being able to speak out. Um, I think the most shocking part for some math teachers is how simple it can be to make debatable questions.
Mm.
The problem is most math worksheets and curriculum just ask for the answer all the time.
Yeah.
And if I just ask, what's 2 plus 2 or what's the square root of 49 or whatever, you're just going to give me a one word answer. So of course there isn't discussion. Of course there
Mm-hmm.
isn't debate.
Mm-hmm.
But if I start adding words like the best or the coolest or the weirdest, these like superlative type words that force an opinion,
Yes.
I'm still asking math content questions and asking for answers as
Yeah.
well.
Right.
But I might just ask first sometimes, what's the best first step here, or what's the best
Mm-hmm.
method for solving this problem, or who can make the coolest mistake, and we'll put up some mistakes on the board, and which one is the coolest, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
just we're still doing the math, and I still care about answer getting and things. That's part of math, but I don't want it to be the only thing we do in math class is constantly focus on the answers, because I think it
Yeah.
creates too narrow-minded of a focus or a
Mm-hmm.
view of what math is.
Mm-hmm.
And so with debatable questions and these open-ended kind of opinion-y type questions, we
Yeah.
can get students to start to learn to share some ideas and arguments.
I'm looking at some of the, because I've got your article here. We're going to be able to reference it. And you've also got some other types of questions, like which one doesn't belong.
Yeah,
Um, Talk about that a little bit too.
sure. Yeah, I mean, that's not mine. That's like a website that many teachers have contributed to. And there's lots
Yeah.
of websites out there like which one doesn't belong or would you rather math that I
Yeah.
also pull from that have good just questions where there isn't always a right answer. And I want to also
Mm-hmm.
lean into that too with students. I think I just want to say, like, in this polarized world, I think we're too focused on what is the right way or the one answer. And I
Yeah.
want students to become more flexible thinkers.
Yes.
And I think things that are open-ended like that also give good opportunity for debate. And in those cases, there's definitely not a right answer. In some of
Right.
the debate questions I asked, maybe there is a best method of some sense, but maybe
Mm.
not. Like I want to keep it open. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to ask these opinion style questions to get kids used to having an opinion and having an argument about something in
Yeah.
math
Yeah.
instead of it feeling so cold and just the answer is 3.
Yeah. It seems like, and I could be wrong. My knowledge of what's been happening in math instruction is a little bit from afar, but I seem to remember my kids were in elementary and middle school when Common Core really got started. And I seem to remember the big difference with it was that they were being asked to come up with multiple ways of solving problems, which
Mm-hmm.
was a very different approach. I think it got a lot of parents frustrated because a lot of us were raised to just, do the algorithm and you have an answer and that's the end of it. And so your approach to having students talk about different ways of solving a problem or, which approach might be better, it seems like it like dovetails really nicely with that emphasis in math instruction.
For sure. And like I said, I work with schools all over the US, and I love this idea, and the Common Core supports those kind of things. But there are plenty of teachers who just don't know how to embrace multiple approaches, and
Yeah.
they want to, out of love, they want to make it easier for students and just say
Yeah.
like, here's the quickest way to do this. Just
Right.
copy this. Just do this. And I think that's like the forcing that narrow view of what math is. And if we don't give them the space to have opinions and ideas,
Mm-hmm.
of course they're not going to enjoy math if they don't see themselves
Yeah.
in it, or their ability to think creatively.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I worry that this is a part of a cause of the polarized world we live in right now, is because they've just been told, just do this, just
Yeah.
copy me. And
Yeah.
I want to get away from that in math class as often as possible.
Right. Right. And we also, are seem to be getting worse and worse at the skills of having conversations where we disagree about things and being able to just reference, texts or other pieces of evidence and just make an argument without making it nasty or personal.
Yeah. I mean, yes, debate has become my brand now,
Yeah.
unintentionally, just because of the world we live in at this moment. I want both students and adults to get used to a little bit of discomfort and a little bit of gray area, and not always having to know the right way or the best way
Yeah.
right away. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to change the culture in that sense a little bit,
Right.
in my bubbles, in my circles, to get people used to learning from debate. Like I lean into debate as a learning tool, because if I hear multiple points of view, I get to know the big picture so much better than I
Mm-hmm.
would from just hearing one person talk.
Mm-hmm. So, in your math classes now, how frequently is there something that is within this debate realm versus what it used to look like?
Yeah, well, I don't have my own class right now, but
Okay.
now that I'm just consulting. But
Yeah.
if I just go back like 2 years or so, when I was
Yeah.
full time in the classroom again, it really varies just by year and by class and by reading the students, like anything you do. But I say to teachers, somewhat exaggerating, that it happens on a daily basis. Like I just think debate or making an argument is so easy for me to do as a 5-minute warm up, as a question. Like if I'm doing a bunch of questions on a worksheet, one of them
Mm.
can be like, convince me why this is true, or convince me why this is the best first step, right? I put it on assessments. I put debate questions here and there, where just the idea of having to give an argument, I think, is interweaved into my classroom. It wasn't that way in the start. Like the first
Right.
year, I say to teachers all the time that I did like maybe 3 or 4 5-minute warm up debates for the
Yeah.
whole year, and that was it,
Yeah.
like all I could handle, right? Traditional me, desks in rows, kids just listening and obeying, like
Yeah.
that was a big step for me. But as I did it over time, it became really comfortable for me just to, like, on the spot, just drop everything and say, okay, let's debate that. And like I
Right.
could be working with students, and I talk about this story all the time, where we were doing some area and perimeter in 7th grade math class, and a student said, I wonder if you cut off a shape, if that reduces both the area and the perimeter. And I said, "Oh, that's a good thought. Can we just pause the class for a second? And can I write this on the board?"
Mm-hmm.
And we have a debate routine already going, which we haven't gotten into yet, but we'll get into in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And can you turn to your partner and can you debate with them? What are your thoughts? And let's see what we come up with, and we can have a good debate. So moments like that can happen also, like, unplanned, right?
Yeah.
Because I have a culture where students get used to debating and are comfortable debating,
Right.
and kind of want to debate. I want to build
Yeah.
that energy up as we do more and more of this.
And so that is a big piece of this, is sort of training the students in some of the methodology, and then also getting their minds wrapped around, I guess, in the same way that teachers would need to get used to this idea that, yes, this is actually something you can do in math. And it's not, because I would imagine you might even get some resistance from the kids at first.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But then
Yeah.
how are they after they've gotten the train? Like, do they like it and enjoy it? Are you seeing the engagement that you were looking for?
Oh, 100,000,000%, yes.
Okay.
And, there may be a random outlier once in a while, but in general, they are so excited to give an opinion in math class. I mean, think about
Yeah.
teenagers are full of opinions. They're excited to give their opinions.
Right.
And they've never, so often in math class, never been asked to give an opinion or
Mhm.
have a creative thought. I tell the story often of, I was working with some teachers in Utah, and I gave a presentation on debate math on like a Monday PD day. And I was going to go work in some classrooms for the rest of the week. And a teacher who was a little skeptical of what I was doing, like, this all sounds like magical. It worked for you in your classroom, right? It's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
And I said, well, let's just try it. Let's plan like a 5-minute warm up, and then like maybe have a debatey question interweaved in the class, like one or two problems. And we taught the class. It went well. Afterwards, I was debriefing with the teacher, and she said, the girl who spoke first has not spoken all year in my math class. Like,
Wow.
she suddenly didn't have to know the answer to be able to speak up in class, right? And so
Yep.
often the people who speak up in class are the people who feel like they're good at math, or they know how to get the answer quickly, or
Mm-hmm.
what have you. And so that's the powerful stories that I see often when I get invited into classrooms and get to work with teachers. And if we really, really lean into it and not just kind of, set it up for failure, but really give it a try, students
Yeah.
are so excited, because I don't think they ever get those moments in math
No.
class, in a traditional math class and a typical math class around
Yeah.
the country.
Well, and I also, I know that in the world of math education, there is constantly this sort of battle against this idea that kids have of I'm not a math person that seems to get programmed into some people very young. Has this approach, have you seen it kind of turn some kids around in that way?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you know Math Therapy, the book Math Therapy, Vanessa
No.
Vicaria. She talks a lot about math anxiety and like how like it's like almost like a therapy session of getting kids over some of the
Yeah.
anxiety they have in math class. And she talks about a lot of, with me, we're friends now, about how she sees debate as like one of those things that's really helping kids get over those
Mhm.
fears and anxiety, because it's welcoming, it's fun, everyone can have an opinion, and there often isn't a wrong answer, so it's okay to just share out an idea, and suddenly that can spill over into maybe building a little bit of confidence in giving a actual answer on a straightforward question later on. Like we can
Right.
build from there, as if we start with some simple things.
Yes, yes. So, in terms of implementing this, you start with these debatable questions, actually finding the places in your curriculum that can be turned into these debatable questions.
Yes.
And so we've sort of covered that part already. Once you've done that, you've got these questions. I know that you've explained in the article that you start them out with non-math topics just to teach them how to actually have these conversations. So walk us through that.
Yeah, I think about all the students we were just discussing with math anxiety and
Mm-hmm.
fear of not being right in math class. Having this whole debate routine with having to find the right math answer can be really daunting. So I
Yeah.
start, and I do this in multiple subjects now too, but I always start with non-content stuff if I want to build a new routine. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just in general for any routine. Let's just play with it.
Yeah.
So I might ask, what's the best ice cream flavor, the best pizza topping, who's the best
Mm-hmm.
musician, or the best show on Netflix, or whatever you
Yeah.
want to debate. And just for 5 minutes, maybe debate with a partner. Maybe I'll have a few students share out and debate in front of the class or share their argument with the class. But with that, I teach them how to make an argument. And I use the sentence frame: my claim is, my warrant is.
Mm-hmm.
Like my claim is dogs are the best pets, and
Mm-hmm.
my warrant is they are cuddly and obedient, and my two dogs cheer me up on a rough day or something.
Okay.
But claim is like your opinion, and warrant is a fancy word for reason. And I
Okay.
get those words from the debate world, the fancy formal things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I lean into it as a sentence frame that I have posted on the walls in my classroom when I'm teaching. And I have to first say, like, I think, especially in secondary world, teachers don't lean into sentence frames enough. I
Mm-hmm.
think they often think they're, I don't know, childish, or something for elementary school. And
Yeah.
I see it, especially in secondary math. Like I just see sentence frames being kind of ignored, or I see that the giant posters of like too many sentence frames that like no one's ever going to use.
Right.
And so I try to simplify it into just one statement, and really just giving your idea and a explanation or a reason behind it, your claim
Mm-hmm.
and your warrant.
Mm-hmm.
And it's lovely because the students suddenly become really comfortable with it. A lot of times students are unsure how to speak up in math class or in any class, and what does it mean? Do you want a 1 word answer? Do you want a 5 minute answer or a 30-second answer? Like, what is it you want? I think
Yeah.
that clarity is really, really important for students. And I think like that's why that student that I mentioned in Utah, that was the first one to speak up and hadn't spoken all year, like we had just
Mm.
such clarity married with an opinion question that it was easy for her to jump in and say something. But maybe she didn't even know how to speak up in math class before, right? So I want to keep it super clear for students of what it means to make an argument. And I can extend it and draw it out from there, but the basis of an argument is always giving your opinion with an explanation or some reasoning behind it.
Yes. And so they practice giving their claim and their warrant with a non-math topic, and then you ease
Yeah.
into a math topic
Yeah.
eventually. Yeah, one of the
Yeah. So
debatable prompts. Yeah.
Monday and maybe Tuesday as well are like, best pizza topping, best ice cream, um, best place to go vacation. I don't know
Yeah.
whatever you want to debate. But then like Wednesday, I'm like, okay, so now what's the best first step for this problem? Or I think about like in high school algebra, like graphing systems of equations and like what's the best method for solving this? And we have many methods, right? Things like that I can lean into. I don't spend the whole year just doing debates about fluffy stuff. That is fine. It's fun to do once
Yeah.
in a while just to perk up the kids. That's totally fine to do. But there's so much math content we have to cover as math teachers, and I'm sure in other subjects as well. But
Yeah.
there's so much we have to cover that I want to ingrain it into what I do. So once we get a routine going, just very briefly, again, as some students sharing out the whole class or just a pair debate moment with their
Mm-hmm.
partner giving a claim
Mm-hmm.
and warrant, we build from there. And I just want to keep growing it. And like over time, I add like, oh, can you actually repeat the previous person before you give your claim and warrant, or summarize the
Mm-hmm.
previous person, so that we're like learning to listen to each other, respond to each other. And so I like tweak it a little bit as the year goes on, but it all comes back to the claim and warrant.
Right. Hey, this is Jen. I am going to interrupt this episode for just a minute to tell you about something I think will be a big help to you as an educator, whether you're a teacher, a school leader, an instructional coach, or even someone studying to become a teacher. It's something I've been publishing for the last 10 years called The Teacher's Guide to Tech, and it's basically an encyclopedia of tech tools curated especially for teachers. My team and I keep an eye on all the tech tools that are out there, the ones that are fresh and new, and the ones that have stood the test of time, and we think about how they can best be used in classrooms. Then we sort them into categories, give you a really simple description of what each one does, provide a link to the tool's website so you can check it out, and we also pick out a video that shows the tool in action so you can understand quickly how it works and if it will work for you. And because tech changes all the time, we have to maintain these listings to make sure they stay fresh and accurate. On top of that, we have a really nice collection of articles we've written that will help you explore more ways to use tech and fine-tune and troubleshoot things as you go along. Plus, there's a huge glossary of tech terms to help you stay current with the language. In the past, this guide was published as a PDF that we updated once a year. Although this worked fine, that PDF would stay the same all year until the new edition came out. In January of 2025, we moved the entire guide to a fully online subscription-based model. This allows us to update it all year round, keeping it fresh and new all the time. A year's subscription costs exactly the same as the PDF used to cost, so we haven't raised the price one bit, and it's even more affordable if you get it as a group. To learn more about how this guide can help you become the most tech-savvy teacher in your school, visit teachersguidetotech.com. And so one of the things that you and I talked about before we started recording, and as we've been working on this article, is when I read your process and I saw that students gave their claim and their warrant, and then another student would give their claim and their warrant, and then and I asked you, where is the debate? Where is the back and forth in this? And so a couple of things that you had told me, which I'll give you an opportunity now, because I wanted to make sure that when people listen to this episode and they hear debate in math class, they understand where that plays a role, and then does it ever transition into people giving counter arguments and actually kind of going back and forth a little bit. So talk a little bit about your sort of reasoning for why it sticks mostly in the claim and warrant stage, but then also how does it evolve?
Yeah, I think the basis of any debate is going to be making arguments. So I have to teach students how
Yeah.
to make an argument, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like level one of debate routines is
Yeah.
claim and warrant, make an argument. And so either if I do it as a whole class and I'll have like 5 students share out their best pizza topping or the best first step of this problem, whatever it is, we're learning to build arguments. And then, like I said, over time, I add more things where you respond to the previous person, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I have lots of activities. I have these debate cards on my website we can look at later, where there's like a problem with like 2 answers or 2 methods or something, and each student in their pair has to take a stance and explain why theirs is, and they can go back and forth.
Okay.
So it can build into more back and forth, more conversational.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I'm just trying to create space for discourse and then heightening it by adding some argumentation level to it. And I just want to add that I love, even when I don't do debate anymore in class, like in a moment where I'm not debating with students or having them debate, they'll still get in that habit so much of like the 2-part answer that they'll say like, oh, X equals 7 and my warrant is, and they just explain like what they did. And which is like this nice little bonus I get. So like
Yeah,
if they get in the habit of always explaining themselves or always justifying themselves,
right.
they just want to do it on any problem I give them after a while. And it becomes
Yeah.
really, really beautiful that like when I'd been walking in the classroom, they're like, your kids just always explain everything they do. And I was like, yeah, but I train them on that, right? I train them to make
Right.
arguments and I don't do it all day long, but like it just spills over and becomes a habit of them if I keep coming
Yeah.
back to it.
Yeah, being able to back up what you say is just a good life skill in any kind of a conversation. So that's really cool. So we've talked about, getting people started, having them start with like a fun, light topic. What are some other tips that you have for teachers that are going to get started with this? We've got starting on an easy topic,
Yeah,
debatable
definitely
questions. What else?
start fun, have some kind of routine. I love claim and warrant, but some people want to change it to claim and reason or something that
Okay.
they feel like it's out of their comfort zone or whatever. Or
Yeah.
some science teachers do my hypothesis is and my evidence is. Great.
Hmm.
Like I think all that is fine. I've noticed, and I'd love someday to work with someone to do some research on this, but the words claim and warrant, because they're a little bit out of students' everyday vocabulary, like it's not part of their like casual language,
Mm-hmm.
it heightens the debate. Like students actually like sit up and take it seriously instead of just saying like, I think this because farts or whatever,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this, the silliness doesn't happen because
Right.
I added this like a little bit of a heightened sentence frame. And again, I feel like secondary doesn't lean in sentence frames enough.
Yeah.
But this one feels very much not elementary. And so like
Hmm.
it feels a little bit more appropriate maybe
Yeah.
for secondary students. And so
Yeah.
they lean into
Yeah.
it. So
I like that.
yeah, so starting fun, having some kind of sentence frame that you can really lean on, having debatable questions, like
Hmm.
learning to write some things. And this is a lot of my work with teachers, is just learning to write and ask, or getting the habit of writing and asking questions that aren't just what's the answer, but like,
Hmm.
why did you think that? What would you do next? What might you do next? Or what would be the coolest way to change this problem? Or which
Hmm.
one of these 3 problems might be the hardest or might be the most fun or whatever? And I just, these like meta questions that are more about your opinions and ideas and feelings,
Yeah.
is something we have to get used to. And the more we do it, we build that like great classroom culture where students get used to sharing opinions and are excited to share opinions and excited to talk and feel like they can see themselves in the math class because they're allowed to give their ideas.
Hmm. You had said earlier that sometimes these debates just show up spontaneously in the middle of a lesson.
Yeah.
But the when you're getting people started, when you're getting the teachers that you consult with started, is there sort of a recommended time that you typically have them get started? Is it like a daily warm up or something like that where they would start to implement these routines?
Yeah, the daily warm up is probably the easiest way to start because
Hmm.
you can still go about your lesson. And so, give me 3 to 5 minutes to have kids just turn and talk or share it with the class and do
Yeah.
quick claim and warrant.
Hmm.
And then you can go back into your boring lesson. It's like, not that they're all boring, but whatever your lesson was, you can go back into it.
Yeah.
Um, and even then, even if they do just like a warm up once or twice, teachers see kids kind of wanting to like share more ideas or like want to give an opinion about something, even if they
Yeah.
don't ask for it in their lesson. So like this feeling of wanting to justify and argue kind of just starts to percolate with kids and starts to like create a little bit of a spark
Yeah.
and get them wanting to do more in class. So the easy way is start with a warm up, start it, keep it simple. I always say keep it simple and consistent. Whatever you do, just have a quick little routine. And then, like we said, like the spontaneous version can happen in the moment because someone asks a question and someone else disagrees, and like, oh, let's debate this. Let me give you a moment to like confer with a partner, and then come up with
Right.
an argument you're going to share with the class or something like that. And I can do that on the fly now, but only because they know what to do and what I expect of them.
Yeah. Another piece of advice too that you give is to not give up right away, that it can kind of get a little bit, tricky at the beginning, or it can feel awkward or not feel like it's not working. So what else do you want to say about that?
Yeah, I think it's really easy with anything new teachers try to feel uncomfortable and say, "Oh, this is just not for me. Like this is for someone else's classroom, or this is for smaller class sizes or different kids or whatever. It doesn't work in my classroom." And I have to push back on that and say, like, I've been in so many classrooms and so many different types of classrooms and urban and rural and all kinds of things, and I see it work if we really give it a try. And so I tell teachers all the time to talk to someone if it's not working. If something you're trying is not working, whether it's debate math or anything you want to try out, if you really believe in it, talk to a colleague, brainstorm with a friend or a spouse, or reach out to me. Like I have my emails on my website. Go ahead and reach out, and I'd love to brainstorm. Like this is the stuff I nerd out on doing, and I'm excited to talk about. I think students can benefit from this, and students really like this, and I just see it over and over again. And so I just say, like, don't give up and don't just dismiss it because one day didn't go well. Maybe the kids were, too tired that day. It was the day after the homecoming dance or something. I don't know.
Right.
But like, there's exceptions or weird moments or just some days or they've never been asked to talk in your class ever. And you're suddenly asking them that. And they're like, it's March. I've already given up on you. Like, how do you have to change that culture first, right? So like, let's brainstorm ways to kind of like work our way in, and maybe in that case, maybe you have to do a lot of more silly warm-ups that are not content related for a while, right? To start build their comfort to it.
Right.
But let's brainstorm.
Yeah. So you have a lot of resources that can help teachers with it. One of the things that you advise also is that teachers not start from scratch, that you actually have some resources on your website. So let's transition into talking a little bit about what you actually have to offer. You talked about a podcast, you've got a book, and you have some free resources on your site. So let's hear what you got.
I like to keep putting things out there. If you go to my website, Luzniak.com or debatemath.com, they both end up in the same place at some point. But my main website, Luzniak.com, is where I put a lot of my stuff. You can sign up for my mailing list and get like monthly ideas. I send stuff out. But on there, I have some debate cards. These like cards that students can debate in different math classes. And it's like each one is like 6 or 7 questions about one topic, like square roots or graphing a line or Pythagorean theorem, whatever. And each card has like 2 sides. So in pairs, they like flip a card over, and each one has to take a side and give their arguments on that. So that's a good, easy way to start. If you're just like looking for a place to pull something, you don't want to create your own questions, that's totally fine. I also have on my website some fun questions to debate, as well as there's a handout that's on there that's called 3 Ways to Activate Debate Math. I give lots of like quick examples, things you can do in math class, types of questions you can ask, and build the routine in. Like all that is on there on my website. Feel free to look around. I also have an online course on Grassroots Workshop that I have just, it was a 6-week course, and I just shrunk it to a mini course. So it's now like a 3-hour course that you can do asynchronously and kind of get into the details and see videos of me and my classroom and teachers I work with kind of digging into all this work. And then the podcast is for adults to debate. I trying to extend what I do in the classroom to get adults comfortable debating. And so I have educators come and just debate, and maybe you can join sometime, Jennifer.
And what's the name of the podcast?
It's Debate Math Podcast. Debate Math is one word.
Okay.
And we debate things like, should you give homework? And there are people on both sides. I had one with students where we debated, should you be allowed to use notes on tests? And we had some students who were against it and some who were for it.
Interesting.
And I love to find people with different opinions, and they're allowed to agree. Like they agree on some parts, right? But they come in with some opinion on, different from the people that they're arguing with. And I want to model that it's okay to disagree. And there maybe isn't a right answer. Like maybe homework is a complicated issue, and maybe what you think about as homework is 100 problems, and I think about homework as 3 problems. And so like what we're even picturing is different. So it's until we sit down at the table and have these discussions and bring people together to have these discussions, there's no space to really have a deeper understanding of the issue. So we do that. We do some silly ones and some serious ones and all kinds of things in between. And we only do it once a month because it is a side project of passion for my co-host Rob and I. And then we started this year, actually, this season, we do a little 5-minute episode the week after the main debate where we do a classroom question. So we're starting to ask questions like, what would be the best method for a problem that we give, or what's the best tech tool we just asked for math class. So if you actually want some question just to kind of randomly talk to kids about something as a warm up or something, we're dropping those episodes out once a month. Also, these little 5-minute ones, to give people some idea of more things they could be debating with students.
Very nice. I would actually love to come on. That sounds really fun.
Yeah, okay. So let's do it.
You've got
Everyone, you heard it here.
Right? Yeah. Those topics all sound like things I would love to talk about. So, okay. So before we wrap up, I sort of saved this question for the end, and we've we've referenced it a couple of times, but just, this idea of why does debate matter more now than ever? Just leave us with that, I guess, as a final thought.
Let's end on a light note.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I will start by saying, like, some of my personal volunteer work is in the depolarizing space. I think our world is super polarized. I worry about the politics and the clickbait and the outrage machine that's happening, that people are making money off of podcasts where they lean into outrage and getting people all upset. And I want to do the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And again, so the same thing I want to do in my classroom. I want students to be used to disagreements, be used to talking to people who, like their classmates, who have a different opinion on a problem than they are, and seeing that, like, we can still get along and we're still good people and all those things. And I want that to be a part of my legacy with what I would do. Is I want to help students feel like they have a voice, know how to use it to explain themselves and justify themselves, but then also learn how to listen and be open to other people's opinions, to see that not all the time, but many times, both sides could be correct in some sense or in some context. And so I want them to get used to that fact that could happen often. And that's actually a joyous thing. It's part of the plurality of our country and the complications and complexity of human life. And I want students to get used to that. And so that's why I think this is more important. Students need to talk. Yes. Students need to develop arguments, like think about math proof, like that's just arguments. But the social aspect I worry about more than ever is that I don't want students to think that the world is super black and white. I don't want them to think that they have to be on the side that has the right answer, because often there isn't a right answer. It's more complicated than that. Yeah. And so I hope debate shows them that.
Chris, thank you so much. This has been a really interesting conversation.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. That was wonderful.
To read Luzniak's article and find links to his book and other resources, visit cultofpedagogy.com, click podcast, and choose episode 269. To get a regular email from me about my newest blog posts, podcast episodes, courses, products, and speaking services, sign up for my mailing list at cultofpedagogy.com/subscribe. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great day.